So today, like I said, I'm going to be talking kind of that you've helped somebody get to under contract and what it takes to get it from there to the end. Absolutely.
Couldn't figure out Wednesday, but Becca, I listened to your class online last night, loved it. It was super helpful. So I was prepped to come.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep. All of these sessions are on the KW Westfield YouTube page. If you ever want to go and watch either, in preparation for this class, I actually watched several other presenters of this class just to see their different talking points, and I'm going to be different than all of them because I have a different perspective, but you can always go back and reference other stuff. And if you're just hungry for more content, there's tons of awesome content on there that you can watch. So first these are supposed to be hidden. I don't know why we're seeing the hidden slides, but follow the TCPA so you don't get in trouble or get us in trouble. This is the wrong one, right?
I did that last week. I think you're going wrong.
Am I?
Yep.
Yes, I am. It's a real cool clicker that I didn't know how to use. So to talk about the course overview, we're down here, like I mentioned, get to the close. Next week is going to be Plan Your Future, or next session, and then it's going to start all over about sparking your career. So today's agenda, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to talk about the timelines, which if you were here on Wednesday, Becca went through a lot of those, but we'll go cover them again. We're going to talk about the best practices and risk avoidance. Then we're going to get into where I focus, and that's going to be referrals and reviews and the post-close follow-up, the recaps and ahas, and then we're going to just talk some daily success habits. So this is a quote from the MREA that Gary Keller says. It says, real estate transactions aren't particularly trouble-free. It's strenuous and trying time that requires all the attention and effort you can command. And I think the reason they bring this in to start this session is simply because getting somebody under contract, it's not always easy, but it is the easy part. Getting them from under contract, helping manage those expectations, the emotional roller coaster that clients on both ends of the spectrum, and sometimes the cooperating agents are going to have, is really the hard part. So this session, it's really condensed into a small topic, but it is some of the hardest parts, or it can be some of the hardest parts. So let's talk about timelines for the contracts. It's our jobs as real estate professionals to make sure that we're hitting our deadlines in our contracts. That's how we ensure that our clients' earnest money is safe, that there's no real problems in the contract. So up to this point, we should have been making timelines in your guide. I don't see guides, and I don't even know if they're doing those anymore. So we'll just kind of go through it here on the screen. All the stuff is here. So, and what we're going to do is talk about the timeline. So if we were to set this up as our contract, it's accepted from the buyer writes it, the seller accepts it on September 2nd, and you've set your inspection period for about 10 days or so, and that's going to end here on the 13th, and closing is going to be October 2nd. So what are other deadlines that we're going to see in between these that we need to be aware of? Due diligence. Okay. So due diligence does kind of follow into that inspection period. Financing is one that would usually correlate around the closing. Yep, appraisal. What? Seller's disclosures. And when is seller's disclosures? Is it 4 days? No? Oh, never mind. It's whatever you set it to be. I thought, do we always set it as 4? Okay. I did not know that. So, earnest money's 4 days. Thank you. I knew one of them was. I'm like, I'm sure there was something. So earnest money would be another one on that list. So who is involved in a transaction? So it's gonna, let's kind of brainstorm and discuss who all is involved. I think, was it you that said there's 30, can be up to 35 people involved in a transaction? So who can we think that's involved when you're helping someone buy or sell? Loan officer, broker, got title company, and yep. And even when you're talking title company, you're gonna have your escrow officer, you're gonna have your, I cannot think of her title right now. There's gonna be multiple people at the mortgage company. There's gonna be multiple people at the title company. You're gonna have, assistants or admins for potentially both agents, inspectors. You're gonna have maybe roofers, foundation companies, you know, depending on how into the weeds your inspections get. You might have a meth company come and do meth tests, or a radon company do radon tests. So there's just tons and tons of people that we could potentially have to coordinate through scheduling and everything through the process. Okay, so on the buying side, if you see up here in the top, it's underlined buyer. So we're going to focus about buyer, and then we'll transition to sellers in a minute. What is the first thing that your buyer needs once you have an accepted contract?
Ready to put earnest money.
Yep. So getting ready to put earnest money down. Have you discussed what earnest money is this point, and what kind of the standard?
How good a
Yeah.
offer.
Yeah, so standard is about 1%. I've seen them in the 0.5% mark. And it just kind of depending on how aggressive you're going to be. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive, you can increase that a little bit, but that 1% is about what most listing agents are going to be looking for. Outside of earnest money, what was the timeline? Well, Becca just told us it's 4 days from acceptance. So that's not 4 business days, it's 4 days from acceptance. That it needs to be received and communicated to the listing agent. So that is one of the few outs that a seller has in the contract. It's very, very buyer friendly. So if the seller accepts your offer and then somebody comes in and says, hey, you know, we really want to write an offer and this is what it would be, the seller can't do a whole lot without risking legal recourse. But if you don't get that earnest money to the selling agent by that 4th day, they do have the option of canceling based off of performance. So that is a very important aspect of our jobs as buyer's agents, is to make sure that we're communicating that we've received the earnest money. Here's proof of that. Yeah.
Someone asked, when does the first day start? We put an offer on Friday. The first day starts Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so it's either a Tuesday. I could just see a client
Totally
asking
not.
me that,
Huge question.
but I'd ask that before and people don't know.
It's the first day after acceptance.
It's first day
So
after.
if you wrote the offer today, which is Friday, and they accept it Saturday, then it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Is it at 5 p.m. on that? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so-
Saturday, then Sunday, the first.
Yep.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay, I'm gonna repeat that just for the recording, but the question was where does the 4 days begin? And it begins the date after acceptance. So if it was an offer was written on Friday, it was accepted on Saturday, day 1 is Sunday, day 2 is Monday, day 3 is Tuesday, day 4 is Wednesday at 5 p.m. So it's 4 days accepted and by 5 p.m. Unless otherwise stated in the contract, but that's standard. Okay, so what else do the buyers need to know and do in this initial beginning timeline? Yep, getting them set up with an inspector. Rule of thumb when helping with inspectors is if they don't have one and you recommend it, it's wise to recommend at least 3, just as a protecting yourself from the future. I am aware of a transaction that happened where one client bought this home with an agent, and they recommended their inspector. They ended up buying the home. A few years later, they went to sell the home, and a different inspector came in and found that the trusses in the attic were broken, and it was definitely done a long time prior, and it became a big thing. And this client who had bought the home with this agent and now was selling it with this agent ended up suing her agent because she recommended one inspector who did not catch it. And so, it went through the whole litigation stuff that happens, and basically the agent ended up taking care of the repairs because of not recommending enough people. Because if you only recommend one, it's basically like you're picking it. Or if you recommend 3, you're saying, do your due diligence and pick the one that you think's best. So, go through, find the ones you like. When looking for an inspector, I would recommend ones that do really good written up reports, because that'll help us when we're going to negotiate for repairs later, is having something that you can say, all right, here is pictures of it, here's the write-up of what's wrong with it, and that makes it so you can send it off to the listing agent and say, hey, here's what we found. This is a big concern for the buyer. So having a good write-up is important to me. So I'd recommend when you're interviewing, looking for inspectors, that you go that route. The office does have a list of vendors and stuff that we have vetted, that you can, I'm sure that, his name just left me, Cameron. Cameron will have that list that he can share with you and stuff, so you can start vetting them as well. So what do the rest of the team, the co-op agent, inspectors, lenders need to know, take action on, and when? What are the things that the deadlines? Mhm. Yeah, the lenders would need to know, by this point in time, we should have a strong proof of qualification in order to have the offer. But the lenders are gonna wanna know who the title companies are. The title companies are gonna wanna know who the lenders are and the other title companies. So being able to communicate with each group and party, being able to send, their phone numbers, emails to the different title companies. When we go under contract with somebody, we actually send them immediately who our lender is, who our title company is, and how to get a hold of them, as well as, and then kind of jumping into a little bit into the next one, where can you do to bulletproof? We actually send calendar invites to our clients on all the different deadlines, so that on their calendar it says due diligence deadline, so they know that that's there. They have a place they can go back and reference. And then it's also really nice for us, because if we're facing a tight deadline and we're like, okay, well, we need to get a radon machine or a radon test in a home, how long do we have to get the results back? We can just pull it up in our calendar and say, oh, due diligence is here. So it allows everybody to have a clear place to find answers.
You, you have a relationship with a specific title company, or you just one through Keller Williams? Is that another one where you want to offer multiple options?
You definitely want to offer multiple options. We currently have 2 that we work with more regularly. The one that we use most often, if our client doesn't have a preference, we've built a really good relationship with. And the thing we like about working with them is that if we have any concerns about their process or something, they'll change how they're doing things to meet our team's needs. So but in Becca's class, she talked a bit about this is where I'm not as strong, but there's 4 main big, is it brokerages? Underwriters. So they're going to be the companies that have longer history track record. And then there's a bunch of little brokers who can service from big companies or little companies. And we always shoot for those 4 big ones. If you want to say which ones they are, because I cannot remember.
So with title, there's underwriters, which are the title policies, and then there's escrow companies, which are the title companies. So the big escrow companies are First American, Old Republic, Stewart, and I can't ever remember the 4th. So no matter what title company you work with, they're gonna use one of those policies, most of the time. Occasionally they won't. But my thought on it is with title insurance, it's not a problem today, it's a problem in 10 years. And if the escrow company goes out of business, finding the documents is gonna be a whole lot harder. So that way, there's no business, we can go back and find whatever was agreed upon. So that's why I just. Or if you don't want to use a big one, I also like the more established one. So like Provolone Title, who's now Prospect, has been around for 100 years. Not really, but I think it's like 2 years. So they're probably not. Where back during the recession, a bunch of little mom and pop shops out there. And if you have a problem, you just have to have it over-insured and it's extra work for everyone. So.
Okay, thank you.
More in depth than you ever need.
Yep. Did that answer your question? Okay. Uh-huh.
Like the Google Calendar site, all the time.
Uh-huh.
Is that how you guys keep track of your deadlines too?
Yep.
People just plan and make tasks. How do you, what is?
You-
That
you-
seems like super important.
Yes, you
Haven't learned how to, the best way to keep track.
you could absolutely use command to do it. It's very capable of it. My concern with command is you have to get in and be using it. It has to be a daily, and like I get in command every single day with our CRM and all of the things, and I still wouldn't feel comfortable because it just gives you a little, like a pop-up, this is task is due today, and I've got well, I've cleared them out recently, but I've let tasks go for 6 months before I follow up with them because I don't personally use it as my actual task reminder. I use it for smart plans to send emails. I use it a lot, but I still don't use it to its full capability just because it's not
You have to log in.
exactly. And I believe you can set it up to send you reminders of tasks. I'm not positive on that. I've been testing a system where it sends me an email every day at 5 so I can follow up and say what I've done for the day, and that's working really well. But I think that it has a similar functionality with task reminders. But the way we do it, and it works really well since we have an assistant, but she just goes in through our Google Calendar and just sends an invite to them and an invite to us. So then it's on all of our calendars.
And it's at 6 a.m. on the day of the deadline.
Yeah, so then we have time that day to resolve any last issues before it. And we set it so that your visibility is free, so that it doesn't like block you from having other appointments or calendars or stuff, but just so that it's there in the morning. First thing we see in the mornings, hey, this is a problem, or not a problem, but this is happening today. We need to make sure that we've resolved this by 5 p.m. today. So here is kind of that timeline of the transaction. Up here on the top is your, sorry, I was trying to remember. So this is kind of the contract acceptance and the closing timeline and that inspection due diligence period here. Up here on the top timeline is what the buyer's gonna see. And in a few minutes, we'll see what the seller is gonna see as well. So up here, the first thing, you're gonna get your inspection list to your buyer. That's where you're gonna send 3 inspectors to your buyer to say, hey, here's the options. Sometimes buyers wanna pick their dad to come and do it. I don't love it when that's the case, but you're going to get the inspector to list to the buyer so that they can start making a pick of who they want. We try to get those inspections scheduled as early and quick as possible. That way we have time before the inspection period ends to be negotiating and getting other people out for those additional inspections. So if you need a roofer or something, sometimes roofers can take up to 2 weeks, depending on who you get a hold of, what time of year it is, to come out and say, yes, that it does need a roof, or no, we can just make a patch or something. Because an inspector is going to get up on the roof usually and say, this is questionable. They're not going to say that it needs a roof, but they will say, you need to find another professional to come and do this. And they're going to do that with your HVAC. They're going to say, oh, this water heater's past its life. The water heater might be fine, but that's how an inspector is covering themselves as well. As it's working, but it's past its life. Or the heater, outdoor condenser units on air conditioning, they're just going to advise you to find somebody who specializes in that. So try to get the inspection set up as quickly as possible. Then you've got your earnest money, and that's 4 days for, as we've discussed, and that can be either a personal check delivered here to Keller Williams, and it needs to be made out to Keller Williams. It can be a cashier's check, or it can be using the Earnest app. Thank you. I could not come up with what it's called. Earnest. It costs $18 to do basically a wire transfer from the bank. Did Nobly get back to you? Is it MacuWorks now? Okay, so yeah, so it's really simple. If you need training on Earnest, there is a really good video that Josh Barrett did that's on the Keller Williams YouTube page, and it's like 2 minutes long. It's super, super simple to get set up. But it costs your client $18 to do that wire transfer, but it is very convenient. So kind of what, depending on what you want. Most of the time we end up just picking up a check from our client and delivering it here just to save them $18, but it all works, and it's pretty simple. So and then after you get your earnest money, you schedule your inspection. You're going to inform the listing agent, just get it scheduled. Some inspectors have the whole super access. Those are the best when you don't actually have to go and open it for them or anything, but they can schedule it on the MLS with the listing agent, and then your buyer is going to want to schedule time in at the end of those inspections as well, that the inspector can go through the home with them to show them all of the findings from the report. It's best practice, in my opinion, to not have your client be there when the inspector starts, because it's going to change the dynamic of how the inspector goes about his job. Sometimes, and it seems like out-of-state clients are the ones that are like, oh, I don't have anything else to do, so I'm just going to go and hang out around the house, but then it just hinders the inspector doing a better job. So I would discourage my clients from being there until the inspector's window for them starts. So after the inspections, yeah, and that'll depend on what inspector you're working with, but it's usually about an hour to 2 hours at the end of an inspection that they're going to come, and I remember the first house we bought, our inspector, like we got to the house and he was running down the stairs. He's like, come out and look at this. And like, he's just showing us weird, quirky things about the house, things that are actually functional about the house, just all sorts of wild stuff. Our window was in a shower in that house, and so the window was leaking as the shower was on, and that was the first thing we saw about this house. We did buy it, but yeah, so they're going to go through and show you all of the major concerns, and then maybe things like one of my favorite inspectors goes through and shows them where the gas shutoff is, where the water shutoff is, the different things that, you know, in case there's an emergency, now they've seen it, they know how it works, stuff like that. So, and they're just going to go through the whole house and kind of show any concerns or anything that, you know, for the most part, when we're looking for an inspection, we're looking for things that are health and safety and that couldn't be seen when you're walking through before you write an offer. Like if you walk through a home and you see that it's got bad windows, you're going to take that into consideration when you're writing the offer. But if it's a safety concern, like maybe there's not smoke detectors in any of the bedrooms, which once you could see that, but that to me is a big safety risk. That might be something that I'm say, hey, we want all the smoke detectors replaced, but they're going to go through and show up those things. And then, like I said, having that report, I personally like it because then I can go through and use that to help negotiate if that's necessary. There's lots of different thoughts on whether an agent should attend the inspection or not. My opinion is early on when you're learning, going to inspections is great. It allows you to see what inspectors are looking for, kind of understand the emotions of those different inspectors. We've had inspectors who they would paint everything as doom and gloom and talk buyers out of buying houses. And then we've had some that will just like paint over problems, just be like, oh, it's not a big deal. And you kind of want to know what you're getting with when you're helping pick out these inspectors, so you can know how to approach it, because you don't want something that's actually should be severe to not get repaired, but you also don't want something that's really quite minor to prevent your, to blow up a transaction. So my opinion, early on, go to them. Once you get better at reading the reports and understanding repairs and stuff, then I personally would probably go to them less, just simply as a way of removing myself from liability. That way, if the inspector says something and you hear it, but you don't like it, there is a slight risk there, but early on, I would use all the education I could get around understanding how to fix homes and repair and things that are going to be needed. So then after that point, you're going to send, as a buyer's agent, you're going to send, hey, these is what we found on the inspection, and this is what we would like as a buyer. This can be done through an addendum, but in my opinion, best practice is to either probably call the listing agent and say, hey, this is what we found, and this is what we're thinking, and kind of pre-negotiate it before you put it in writing. Number one, putting things in writing, especially if you're going for like a price reduction, putting in that the roof is bad sends up red flags to the lender. So that could cause other hurdles that are going to be a problem later. So if you're like reducing the purchase price to get a roof, you don't want to say that it's for the roof, So I always would try to pre-negotiate it. But if you're getting if you're like, all right, we're going to have a roof done, we're going to have the seller pay for a roof and pay at closing, that could be in as an addendum, because then the roof will be done, they'll get paid, it'll all be taken care of, and then the lender has no concerns. But I always would recommend pre-negotiating rather than just sending, because there's nothing worse than getting an addendum that says, I want $125,000 off this price because of XYZ, and like it's just a really bad way to start a conversation off with the seller, because then all of a sudden their guards are up, and it's just coming from a place of conflict rather than, we're all going for the same goal. We all want this home to sell to this buyer from this seller, and we want everyone to be happy. Just trying that win-win is critical. So just open communication should help ease that. Yeah.
Call on the phone, talk to them, negotiate,
Mm-hmm.
have a positive conversation, and you're gonna have a win-win.
Yeah.
Put it in the addendum.
Yep. It's yeah. Once you've communicated and you say, this is what this buyer is looking for, the agent will be like, okay, I'll go talk to my client. They'll call or talk to their client, and then they'll come back to you and say, okay, this is kind of what, like you basically are going to pre-negotiate it on the phone rather than in an addendum. It saves a lot of addendums. Nothing worse than having 7 addendums, because you just keep tweaking one little thing. But it also just helps. It doesn't feel like you're ambushing or trying to, get them under contract and then beat them up on price. It allows you to convey, hey, this really is a safety concern. Like, hey, we're really concerned about the rust we found on the bottom of the water heater. it could go out any point right now. The inspection report is gonna tell if we get a home warranty, the inspection report is gonna say that it's rusted on the bottom and no home warranty will cover it, so we'd like it replaced now. So it just gives you the option to really convey the real needs for the thing, and then they can in turn go and convey that to their client, and you really can find that win-win. You have a question? Okay.
Basically start verbally.
Yep. Yeah, and one thing that I would recommend is mirror the communication style of the cooperating agent. If they are the type that picks up the phone every time, that's how I would start a conversation with them, is I'd pick it up and call them. If they're always texting and stuff, I think I would start it with a text like, hey, we just got the inspection report back. There's a few things that I was hoping to talk to you. Do you have a minute to call? Because then you're approaching them in a way that they're comfortable. And once again, just starting that communication off really in a positive note.
About this last year, we targeted, but the property management was it. But yeah, so we negotiate, or we let the sellers, the listing agent know that there's section didn't look great, and there's things that we would like to have credit for, but it's something that we absolutely need to walk away if we didn't get a new roof before we bought it. So they knew, like, it's a do or die, and they were ready to walk away. Obviously, it's a tough situation, tough position to negotiate from as a age perspective. It's kind of a scary situation, but yeah, I guess just knowing our limits, knowing what we actually needed versus wanted, and kind of distinguishing between the two. I think that helps clarify things for the sellers.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also a strategy that we use from time to time when our clients are being a little bit unreasonable and they come back with this laundry list. We say, okay, we see that these are a concern for you. Let's put the top 2 or 3 at the top of that list, because that's what most likely they'll be willing to do, is a couple things. Let's put the ones that are actually important at the top of the list, and then kind of order them in order of importance. And that gives us the ability as agents to say, hey, this is the list of what they want, but I can kind of tell you that the things that they really are concerned about is the windows and the smoke detectors and the handrail on the front steps, or something to that effect. So you could come back with this huge list and to the other agent and say, without saying my clients are unreasonable, you're saying that they're asking for a lot, but I think this is what's really important. And then you could find that win-win where, there's a whole bunch of things, but like really, if you can see something when you're doing a walkthrough, unless it's something that you just don't realize the severity of it, to me, that's not coming from a win-win. That's, we're just trying to beat somebody up now that we're under contract with them. And yeah, so, but knowing what those immovables are is very important, because if your client, and that's going to get into a lot of reading and understanding your client, because some clients won't like outright say it, other clients will, but just being able to read them, understand them, that what, that roof really is important, and we're not going to buy this home if that roof is not replaced. And especially first-time home buyers, they don't have the means usually to come in and put a roof after putting their down payments and buying a home. So knowing your clients, their situations, and will help you negotiate on their behalf. So once we send those inspection responses, the next part is going to be the appraisal due. This is ordered by the lender, and it goes out through their system. We have no options in picking it. We'll see sometimes there's a company that has notoriously bad appraisals. They come in low. There's not a lot we can do about that, other than we do have the option to give them comps and stuff and try to help get the value where we want. But for the most part, there's not a whole lot we can do. On appraisals, with any government backed loan, so FHA, VA, I'm looking at you to verify, and anything Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac backed loan, that appraisal stays with the property. So if you have a FHA buyer coming through and they get an appraisal and it comes in way low, this would be from on a seller side, so I'm kind of jumping off. You can't just get a new buyer in because that appraisal is going to stick with it. Where if it's a conventional, you are able to get a different lender or a different buyer and potentially get a different appraisal out on that. And then here at the end is you're going to do a final walkthrough. This is going to be as close to closing as possible within 1 week of close. And you're just looking for anything that's changed about the home. If they've taken blinds that they shouldn't have, if there's a dent in the wall, if some of the appliances have maybe swapped from a high-end Wolf oven to a generic Frigidaire oven. You're looking for anything that is not the way that the contract states it should be, which is how you saw it when you first wrote that initial offer, unless it's something's excluded or anything. So then there's basically two things that we're doing throughout this process. It's either a communication or it's a documentation. So we'll just kind of jump ahead to the same timeline. The earnest money is a documentation, but I think this is wrong. It should also be a communication because you need to communicate that you've received it. So the send inspection response is documentation. You're sending it, to the lender. And then the final walkthrough is also a documentation that it's been completed. So now we're going to jump over to the seller side. And then, we've already kind of discussed as a group who all is involved in the transaction. Did you have a question?
So the final walkthrough, documentation, so you have to write that somewhere that are.
Yes, unless you communicate that there is a problem, then it's assumed that there was no concerns. And on the final walkthrough, you want to do it before closing, because once closing, because you've got a small window after closing before settlement. After settlement, but before closing. Is that right? I said that right? Okay. That you technically could still go and do it, but getting anything repaired at that point is going to be difficult. So do it right before you go and sign, because then you have some ability to say, hey, this needs to be repaired. You can actually get some response, where afterwards it becomes kind of a nightmare. And I couldn't tell you how many times I've taken stuff, like we had one where we didn't, on the final walkthrough, we didn't notice that behind the fence gate, so we'd open the fence, behind the fence gate was a truck hood. So like the hood of an old truck. So I ended up taking that to the dump for them because didn't catch it. So it's just, they'd moved on, they'd moved out, and now, my buyer had garbage in their yard that they had to have taken care of. So, not a huge deal, but it just makes it so that there is some recourse if they don't take care of it before settlement. Okay, so let's talk about what is the first thing that your seller needs to know. If you've accepted a contract, what is the first thing that you need to know at that point? Or I would even.
First of all, I'm really like Becca said last time about not getting your seller so excited that a offer might be coming through.
Yeah.
I would be so excited. Want to give them the good news, so that was really helpful.
Yeah.
That'd be the first thing, is just wait till it's official and you actually have the offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So what she was saying is in Becca's class on Wednesday, she talked about avoiding the highs and lows of the potentials of the offers coming in. So it was, not telling the client that an agent's told me I'm getting an offer. It's you wait till you see that offer till you convey that to the client. And I think that even does tie into if you're or you're negotiating an offer, that you help keep that energy of it relatively low until you have an accepted offer, because you can always counter back and forth, but they can still walk away quite easily at that point in time. So the first thing that a seller really needs to be doing is working on the seller disclosures. Thank you. So that we actually try to get our sellers working on as soon as we sign the listing paperwork with it. It is 17 pages. It is a lot. If you do it through DocuSign, it's not super easy. So some of our older clients will actually print them out and take them and then just scan them into DocuSign later, just because it's a lot. So try to give our clients as much time on that as possible. In the offer, it will have when those sellers disclosures are due to the buyer, so that we need to get to make sure we're hitting that as our first deadline. Aside from that, other things that the seller needs to know and do when there's inspections, you're going to want to have your sellers having the house ready, just like it was for the showings. You want it to be nice and clean, access to things like the attic access. If there's a mechanical room or something that it's unlocked, you just want to make it easy so that the inspector can get in and do his job with as little pushback as possible. We had one once where the attic access was painted shut, and so that just caused a huge problem, because now the inspector can't, because inspectors will do things like pull back carpet that they can put back, or inspect things that they can move and put back the way that it was. But if it's sealed shut, they're not gonna go in and cut the attic access so that they can see it. So it just causes extra grief, basically. Outside of that, your seller needs to know the timelines. So just like with the buyers, when we have a seller, we send them all of the timelines. Most of those deadlines are not their deadlines. They're going to be the buyer's deadlines, but it just lets them know what's coming and what to expect. And then if they have questions, rather than having to reach out to us for something like, hey, when is their inspection deadline, they have it in their calendar. So as a listing agent, what do you need to know and do? What?
The fun house had the last page point.
Mhm.
So sellers, they're okay, they are for selling the house. I feel like talk about letting them know what process their house.
Yeah, I think that's all great. Along with that, I think knowing who the buyer agent's lender is and reaching out periodically, making sure things like that the appraisal's been ordered. Sometimes, depending on, like if it's an older home or something, and agents do things differently. Every agent does stuff however they choose to, but sometimes they will recommend their clients not, or even the lenders, not order the appraisal until the inspection is finalized and everything is agreed upon there. But then that's going to put a really tight timeline on the lender to get the appraisal out, and that is just kind of setting up those dominoes to not align properly. So kind of knowing your lender, his timeline, being able to communicate with that lender that, hey, is this going to be a problem? How far out are appraisers right now? Because back in the craze of 2021, when we were writing offers and I mean, back then we were writing offers with, no contingencies. Here's $10,000 if you accept our offer and we'll buy it whether or not it appraises or anything. But during that craze time, not inspectors, appraisers were out 10 days. So if you did a 9-day or didn't order it until the end, you're now trying to push your timeline. The seller has no reason to not just take your earnest money and not close and put it back on. So it's being able to communicate with the lender and say, how far out are appraisals, and do we need to get that ordered now to make sure that they're hitting their deadlines? That also falls back under, as a buyer's agent, you should be pushing your own lender so you can communicate that with the listing agent. But as a listing agent, you're still going to want to keep track of, has the appraisal been scheduled, and following the deadlines of, like, all right, are we going to be running into a problem? And if you see that happening, you can come to your client, your seller, and say, hey, the appraisal hasn't been scheduled. I'm sure it'll get in, but we probably won't get it back in time before their deadline, and they're going to come back and ask us for an extension. Like, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. And then once again, you're trying to smooth out that, like, oh, they're just asking for more from us, but by preemptively telling your client that, hey, I'm trying to get them in, but here's something I see, and it's, they were concerned about getting the inspection done before they ordered it, and now we're going to be pushing that deadline. So you can start kind of preemptively helping out your clients' emotions by letting them know that this is probably going to happen a few days before, rather than getting that like 4 o'clock addendum has to be accepted within an hour, that they're extending timelines. So then kind of the rest of the team inspectors, what do they need to be taking action on? That's going to be a lot of the deadlines. So like I mentioned, we send an email out to our title companies, to our lenders, to everyone in the process, and we're actually putting in the email, we're putting in the deadlines as well, so they have a quick reference. So we don't send our calendar invites to the title company, but we do send them an email that says settlement and closing is this day, so that they, when they start the paperwork, they can say, okay, this is a high priority. We've got 21-day close, and we need to get working on it. And then, kind of as a discussion, what are the things that we can be doing to bulletproof the transaction, to set yourself up and your sellers set them up for a successful close?
Figure out their insurance. One of the main things, but
Mhm.
it becomes a hassle.
Ye-
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, big time insurance, especially with first-time home buyers, because they've never had to, a lot of places that do auto insurance will also bundle with home and stuff, so you can do that. What we do as a team is, there's the one that is the preferred vendor for insurance. I cannot think of their name, but we actually send an email to them with our client's information. I think we send it as a group email, so I send it to the insurance people and to our clients, and it says, hey, this is, insurance is something you're going to need with your lender and all of this stuff, and here is our insurance agent that we like and trust and stuff, and then they'll follow up with the client, and it makes it really simple for the client. But yeah, insurance is something you need to talk about. Yeah, first time buyers for sure. Yeah. And then you need to help set up or talk about transferring utilities. As a seller, you're going to want to. My recommendation is a couple days after the date of closing and funding to have your utilities turned off a couple days after that, just to be kind to the buyer that's coming in, so they don't come in and have the power cut off immediately. So once again, in an email, we actually send out, here is the, and this follows more under the buyer side where, because they already know who all their utilities are, but we'll send out this is the power company, this is going to be who's going to do your gas, this is going to be who does your trash, and we just send that out as an email early on, so that about 2 weeks before, so that they can say, okay, I can start getting all of this stuff scheduled for turn on in my name, so that when I move home I can use the toilet. And on the seller side, you just don't want to be paying past that point, but you do want to be kind to the buyers coming in. So especially if they move in on a Friday night, they don't have to wait till Monday to have their power, utilities turned back on. Other things that you can do to bulletproof transactions, it's really going to be monitoring the deadlines and watching for red flags that are coming along, like why hasn't the appraisal been ordered, and then you can reach out to the co-op agent or the lender and say, hey, I noticed we haven't had an appraisal scheduled, what's going on there. Depending on the market we're in, 6-8 months ago, we were able to get appraisal waivers on homes where they had enough data that the lender did, using all their data, everything, that they could say this home is definitely worth what we're lending on it. So that might be a reason why an inspector or an appraiser is not coming out. But just knowing what's going on, looking for the red flags, if they're scheduling multiple showings after it's been under contract, that could be a sign that maybe one partner came and put it under contract, and now they're showing the family, they're showing other decision makers who weren't at the initial stuff. So that could be, a little red flag that you can just kind of start, probing, finding out why they're seeing it a bunch of times. It might just be something simple, like they just want to go and measure the couches or the space for the couch to allow them to go shopping for clothes, things like that, or furniture, not clothes. So you're just looking for little red flags about why is this not progressing, because we should be seeing every week little bits of progress throughout the transaction. Another thing that we do that I think is really great to help our sellers is every week we send an update email through when we're doing it as before it's under contract. We send it as a marketing update. Hey, this is how many houses like yours have been listed. This is how many times your home's been seen. This is the feedback we're getting on the showings and market stats. And then once it's under contract through close, we're sending a weekly update. This is what's happened. These are the deadlines that have passed. This is the deadline that's upcoming. And these are the things we're watching for right now. And that's just, communication is going to make the process so much better for your client. Yeah. Anyone have any other bullet points or questions on? Yeah.
First half is like, that's a real lot. Mentioned the email about letting them know who to contact for stopping the trash, stopping the electricity. So let's say, like, I live in Provo, let's say I help them close a deal.
Mhm.
So I just research all of that. Do you give them the numbers?
Yes, so early on we had an admin who we paid to do all the research and just put it into a spreadsheet. And so that's, if I were doing it by myself as a solo agent, what I would do is just start the spreadsheet. And then as I have a client who is working in Provo, I'd say, okay, this is the stuff I need to know about that. Generally, if there's an HOA, and you're on the buying side with an HOA, the listing agent should put that information into the MLS, so we don't need to go and collect all of the different HOA informations. But primarily, a lot of the cities do use the same, but there are little nuances between each and every city. But that's how I would do it, is I just start a spreadsheet in, Google Sheets or Excel, however you do it, and then just, Provo, this is who does gas, this is who does trash, this is who does water, and then if you're using Google, I'm sure all of the email providers do it, but if you're using Google, you can set up canned emails. So you go in and you save an email template. And so in that template, it's like dear, and then space, comma, and then it says all of the stuff, and then it has place for the copy and paste. So basically we pull up the template, we type in their names, we copy and paste the utility information, put in their email addresses and hit send. And then, so it's, once you get it set up, it's only a couple minute process. And I would say we probably have 10 different canned emails that we send. And then I also have a list of email. Sometimes we're sending emails through DocuSign or something. I do basically the same, but I just have a document that has all of my different responses. So like when I'm sending, trying to think what I send. I can't think of it. Like if I were to send something with earnest money, I would just copy and paste a little snippet and put it in the body of the email that they're going to see from DocuSign that says, hey, earnest money, this is the deposit money that we're going to be putting down on this house. It goes towards the final purchase price, like we discussed, and it can be lost if we don't live up to our dates. So it would just have the whole explanation of what it is, because I don't want anyone to be like, I'm just going to sign this, because I really want to try to remind what we've talked about. There's just so much that goes through this process that I don't think we can over communicate with them on what's going on. And then, but I just want it to be systematized too, so that I don't have to sit down and think about what I need to write every time. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions or thoughts? Yeah, absolutely. Not having them make changes, but also reminding them that the curtains that were bolted up when they walked through, that those belong to the house. Anything that's hard mounted to the home, unless it's excluded in the offer, is to not make the changes. Another thing is really bulletproofing and everything that you kind of gave me, that is really reviewing the exclusions and inclusions that they've put into the contract, because the MLS, you might say the water softener is excluded, but it's been known that either maliciously or on accident they've put it in the contract that, hey, I want it included. We sign it, and all of a sudden now at closing the water softener is gone. But it's in the contract that it should be there. And now as agents, we're trying to pick up the pieces and, buying a water softener or buying shelving for a storage unit. I think is one that we ended up doing one time, because we put it as excluded. The buyer's agent included it. We didn't catch it. That's on us. And now it's gone. So how do we make it right for the buyers as a seller's, agent, and sometimes it's not a thorn, but other times all of this incredible awesomeness we've done is derailed by a $700 fridge. So really being certain about what's on that included and excluded list. And then if there's any questions, like if you get to the end and you're like, they didn't include the curtains, my clients really want them, pick up the phone and clarify before you tell the clients that it's okay to take them, just to make sure that you're not going to create some problems. Yeah.
My contract about the place was all the furnishings, everything as I saw it would be staying. And then like 2 months after the transaction closed, the seller's listing agent called me and said that she used some of her own money to buy like curtains and like shower curtain and pillows for couches just to make the place look better. She wanted those back. And I was like, well, you threw those away. That's, I guess. That was kind of weird. Obviously, she served her client fine and all that, but yeah, we're tasting that out. And I've had, in that same agent, left this for sale sign up front for like 3 weeks afterwards. And yeah, it was all just really confusing.
That's crazy. Honestly, my thought on for sale signs, if I'm the buyer's agent and the for sale sign's up 2 days after closing, my client's moved in, I will put it to the side of the house for him, and if it's still there in a month or so, I'll recycle it. I will take care of it for the client. It's a nice arm. I'll keep it myself. If it's garbage one, I'll take it to the dump. Because that's and like I've done it where I've accidentally, I've been out of town on a vacation or something and left a sign in a yard for a few days, but more than a few days is just unacceptable. Like on any part. Same with picking up a lockbox. Like it's irritating when you go home and you got a lockbox in your way and stuff. So, but as far as I'm concerned, if it was in the contract, it doesn't matter whose possessions they were. It's contracted. So that's really weird that she would reach out and want them back. Maybe. That is really weird and questionable. But yeah. Okay, so now down here, we kind of filled out the seller timeline. So first thing you're going to do is mark the listing as pending on the MLS. So that can be either into under contract or to backup offer status. Both fulfill that need. Backup offer status is just kind of allowing people to say, I'm going to go show this home. Sometimes you do it if maybe you've got your primary offer, maybe they have a time clause that you've negotiated in there that they have to sell their other home, and so you're going to keep it in backup offer status so that if you get another offer, it can trigger that time clause, so that if they don't perform by the time in the contract, say 30 days, that now they either have to remove the time clause or they have to walk and look for a new home, and you can accept that other offer. So there are reasons you would go into backup, but either for that, yeah. And then with that, you'll want to take a screenshot or a printout of, this is for command compliance stuff. You want to take a shot of the MLS printout when it's active and once it goes under contract for compliance documentation reasons. That might change with the changes coming, but until they tell me differently, I'm going to keep doing that. So then next, after they're going to come in through and schedule the inspection, it's really best to have your client be as open and willing to schedule and coordinate around what the inspector can do, just to make everyone's life easier. Because we're trying to really not create any friction points. Because once you create one friction point, all that's going to happen is every time anyone asks for anything, it's just going to create more and more friction. Did you have a question? Okay. So then they're going to, you're going to negotiate back and forth, hopefully through phone before addendums, and kind of send back and forth the inspection response. This appraisal should be scheduled. Yeah.
Deadline.
Due diligence deadline? You mean 5 p.m.? Yes, so due diligence, and this has benefited our clients a few times because there's a lot of agents who don't know this, but due diligence, say we set due diligence for October 7th, and we're negotiating on October 7th, and they send a request at 6 p.m. because it's still October 7th, that they want this resolved, whatever. their deadline is passed. The time on the contract, unless otherwise noted, like if they come in and change it, is 5 p.m. So at 5 p.m., they're essentially their earnest money on at least to that point is hard. Like if they might have another out, but their ability to request repairs is over at 5 p.m. So a lot of people think it's midnight because it's still the day, but it is by Utah contract 5 p.m. So is that everything you wanted me to discuss? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because even just not responding to an addendum is an answer. So if somebody sends us an addendum that says, hey, we want it, the front sidewalk repaired, and we ignore it, the answer is no. So it has to be in writing, signed by 5 p.m. or you're past that deadline.
Or just if they just are gracious enough to say the next day, it's okay, we weren't at our computer, we don't mind signing it the next day. Is
Mhm.
that okay, or is it?
Yes, absolutely. What? No, you can, you,
I just think if they are gracious about it, I'm not sure, we don't mind signing it the next day, they can.
you can still agree to doing repairs, but
They don't.
yeah, as yes, it's done, but like if my client was willing to do it and just didn't get to it by the window, if they were out of town, whatever, as an agent, I would still be looking for that win-win because especially with the buyer-friendly contract, because right now we're sellers, with the buyer-friendly contract, they may not be happy with what's happened on the inspection and they've decided not to buy it. But on this financing and appraisal deadline, they can say, I don't want to buy a house that has a bad front sidewalk or a bad roof. So, and if they're spiteful, they could hold you off for like another 2 weeks off the market. And then minutes before their deadline hits, they could cancel it, so now you've been off the market for a month. So I would always look for that win-win. Like if my client was willing to sign it, but the deadline passed, I would still say, hey, we still should do this repair for them because we don't want to kill the deal. If they weren't willing to do it and and it came past, then it is what it is. I would try to communicate with the buyer's agent before that point in time, like, hey, they're not going to accept it. Like that's not okay. They don't see that it being a value. They feel like you saw these problems upon your initial walkthrough and they're just trying to beat us up over price. But I would always try to communicate if we weren't going to send a response. But ultimately, you could continue to work on making repairs right by them, but you don't have to. Yep. Because they're past that point of being able to ask for it. I don't like your telling me. Okay, you wanna share it? Which agent was it? I can't even remember. Yeah. So.
They were cash, so they didn't have a deadline. And she was like, that. We worked it out, but
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think stories are great because it's how I learned. My ADHD just kicked in and I forgot what I was doing. Um, I still don't know what I was doing. So we were talking about the inspection response. After that, you're going to be scheduling the appraisal. Some appraisers will just schedule it using Aligned or whatever, make life really easy. Depending on how you have that set up with your buyers, or with your sellers, sorry, you may need to communicate to them that, hey, the appraisers asked to come see the home at this time. You can have it set up so that your buyer, or I keep saying that, your sellers can accept it through Aligned, or however you're doing showings will be basically the same way that the appraiser will schedule it. We do, I'd say probably 50% of the time, I could be wrong, but get a call from the appraisal company and saying, hey, we're hoping to do this. Is there anything we need to know? Is there dogs that need to be put away? And they'll just kind of ask a few questions about the home before they get it scheduled, but it's all really easy. And that's one of those I just would watch for and trying to get it ordered earlier in the process, just to give us time to negotiate problems or anything that arises. Here at the Senate, if the buyer's appraisal comes in low, we're going to need to negotiate what we want to do there, whether it's yeah, we'll reduce the purchase price, or no, we want the buyer to come up, or we'll come down a little bit, but we're not going to pay some of the buyer's closing costs. There's a million different ways we can negotiate at that point. And a lot of that's going to be contract specific, like going back to the crazy years where we were writing offers with no financing. In that case, the buyer would be required to come up to the purchase price. We had a buyer in that time frame who we wrote an offer, trying to remember the exact specifics, but we wrote an offer that we would pay X amount of dollars over whatever the appraisal came in at, and the appraisal came in way short, and we helped our client get a home way lower than the purchase price should have been. Like, it was just like the intent of the offer was that it was going to come in at contract price, but our offer was up here, and that we would go to 10,000 above the appraisal. And then the appraisal came in lower than it should have. So our client, because of the way we wrote the contract, ended up getting it for substantially less than they should have or thought they were going to pay. It was really big benefit for our client, but the listing agent was furious. So we changed how we wrote those offers from that point to give the seller I'm not going to sell it for that low, because, once again, we're always looking for that win-win, not really trying to steamroll anyone. But so here you're going to have that timeline of the appraisal has to be resolved by the deadline. And same thing, 5 p.m. It has to be agreed on of what we're going to do to proceed forward. And then lastly, our last timeline, both listing and buyer's agents need to be reviewing the settlement statements, closing statements from the title company. You're looking for anything that's not correct in there, just anything that is going to cause another problem when they get to the signing table. If they're, maybe there was a silent second. For a little while, there was a grant that Provo, I can't remember who, Provo something was doing, where they were putting silent seconds on homes. So they weren't making monthly payments, but they were allowing buyers to buy homes without, actually right now the $20,000 Utah state credit would kind of fall under this, because it's $20,000 for a new buyer in a new construction home. And if you sell within a certain amount of time, you have to repay it. So our seller wasn't that one, but they went to sell it, and now all of a sudden they have a huge amount of money that's going to someone and luckily they remembered it, but they hadn't remembered it when we were meeting with them. So now during the listing appointments, we actually ask questions trying to probe if they got a grant when they purchased, so we can kind of find that. But you're wanting to review that settlement statement so that when you're at the closing table with them, they're like, you told us we were going to make $100,000 and now we're only making 70. What's going on? And that, you know, it's still going to be a bump if that's happened, but it's better to resolve it before you're signing, essentially. So common interaction points. These is going to be a lot of what we've discussed with communication of deadlines, communication of the contract to the other parties, communicating a list of recommended vendors to clients. So this can be things like contractors, you know, like we have flooring people, we have painters, just kind of depending on what your client needs to get through the process. If they need movers, different things like that. You're going to send the contract to the title company. You're going to schedule everything with the inspectors, with the buyer's agents, with the appraisers. Sometimes you'll need to schedule things with HVAC companies. You know, just if sometimes it's going to be because you've negotiated it. Other times it's going to be, we've got a buyer right now who they're concerned about the age of the furnace, and we're getting a home warranty on it. But before we're closing, we're actually, the buyer himself is going to send out an HVAC company, furnace repair guy, to give us a green bill of health so that they can say that, yes, it's working. And that way, if the furnace breaks within the first 2 years, we can go to them and say, hey, here's a report saying that it was operating before we bought the home. So then it makes redeeming the home warranties substantially easier. Depending on the home warranty company you work with, some are really good about, you know, just taking your word for it. Others are like a little bit skeptical, but I look at it as insurance. You're always going to have them trying to prevent fraud. You know, they don't want you buying a home that the furnace is shot and then 3 weeks in calling them up and saying, hey, this furnace is just broke, and getting a free furnace out of it. So I err on the side of document that it's working with a professional, because then they're going to be a lot more willing to do the repair, which will make you look like a rock star in your client's eyes, and it builds the trust with them. So in the future, if maybe you didn't get an inspection or a green bill of health, and you call them up with a problem, they're still going to take care of you or take care of your client because of your history with them. So that, you know, you getting back to my point, you will be scheduling with different contractors, and sometimes you'll have people coming out and doing bids for windows and different things like that, that the buyer is going to want, as you know, as soon as they get ready to move in, they're going to do a renovation or something. And as the seller's agent, you're just going to want to help your seller client accept those showings and different schedules and stuff. So you're going to do lots of communicating around that. And then you're going to send any addendums, amendments, or inspection reports to different title companies and other parties in the transaction. The documentation point. So we're kind of looking at, is this an active communication or is this an active documenting? You know, who and from does it need to go to? And then what's the best way of communicating, sending documents to a party? If you're documenting it, I would always use DocuSign as a just resource of all, keeping all of your documents in the same place. Certain things like if you're discussed a price reduction with your seller, so this would be before you're under contract, but if you discussed a price reduction with your seller, I would send an email to them and say, hey, as we discussed on the phone, we're going to reduce the price from $400 to $390, and then have them respond to that, just so that you have that document. And then I would actually upload that to DocuSign as well, just to verify that you're communicating, you're not just changing prices without their permission. Just really protect yourself if anything ever goes wrong, that you have documentation saying that you did this. And then kind of knowing what your plan for follow-up after a documentation has been sent. If you're using something like Google, you can set up bump reminders to remind you to follow up with certain emails if they haven't responded to it. Other thoughts are you can just, if you're sending it through DocuSign, you'll know that it hasn't been signed. And then if you're doing it through like a text, I mean, you just see that they haven't responded, so you can call them, however. I strongly urge just communicating in like kind, because if someone tries to call me, my generation, I will be like, nope. But if you text me, I probably will respond. So texting, communicating, emailing, however the person does is I think the best way to communicate. And then, are there any templates that you can use or save? So I kind of talked about the templates in Gmail. I believe you can do that in every email platform. If not, the other option is creating templates inside of a document folder, and then just going and copying and pasting it from there. And we've done that for, like I said, the DocuSign. We have a folder in our email or in our Google Docs that has all of our DocuSign messages. So I just go in there, grab it, paste it, send it off, so that I don't have to rewrite. I don't even have to think about what it is we're sending. Any questions on that? The exact same questions. So looking at the documentation points on this, the only one they call out is the sending the seller low appraisal response. But anytime you have any communication with, like, so for your inspection, that's going to be documentation as well. So now we're going to talk a bit about Command, and the opportunities is how we do the transaction with Command. It works really, really well, which is quite awesome. That all they're giving us? That's really awesome. If you have any questions about Command, I spend a lot of time in here.
It's probably off topic, but, I'm going through the case studies and there's like the buyer agreement and everything. I said in the system, I don't know where to find it. Is that in Command? Like the form, like the. It's in Command.
Yeah, so it's, take the big opportunity. Once you have the opportunity to go to the document, and then document.
Does that make sense?
So create an opportunity and then just probably save it.
Yeah, so when I've not done the case studies and all of that, but when I was learning Command, I would just create a contact for myself and just send it to my own email, so I could just kind of see the whole process. And it sounds like if you go kind of create one for yourself, you can find the documents in there. Let's talk about ahas. Anything you've taken away so far?
The first time that I've been creating a system, I love
Mhm.
email templates, make spreadsheets, and go back and don't have to recreate it every time.
Yeah, so I believe it's Gary who says, I think a lot of people have said it, but Gary, I believe, says that if he's ever has to do something 3 times, maybe it was Lee Stern this week. I can't, someone, I've heard it this last week. If they have to do it something 3 times, they're going to create a system so they don't have to remember it. And for me, in between using transaction coordinators, I've filled in as a transaction coordinator. And Keller, we have this thing called the KPA, which is personality assessment where it goes through and it kind of you take a personality quiz and it tells you the jobs you'd be good at. Transaction coordinator is the worst I have, like the absolute bottom. And having done the job, I know why. I'm not organized enough for it. But the only thing that saved me was our systems, is because then I could go, okay, what do I need to do today? And I can just look at and that. So I would say as you're going through, document what you're doing, put it somewhere that you're going to be able to reference, and then if it becomes something you're doing frequently, that's great. You've got it documented. If you never do it again, then later you can say, this isn't something I need to keep track of anymore. I can throw it away. But I would absolutely try to turn everything that you do into a system, because all we do is the same thing every day, just slightly different. So, that one of my coaches always likes to say, in real estate, we're dealing with homes and humans. So it's all different, but it's also all the same process. It's all every day we're doing the same tasks, it's just, and even especially when you're not doing a ton of transactions, if you're closing just them every few months, you might forget what you need to do in the beginning because it's been, a couple weeks since you've maybe had somebody go under contract. So just being able to say, okay, this is what we did. And with production coaching, are you using the transaction coordinator in-house? I would document what they're doing as well as what you're doing, because if you continue to use it, that's great. But from what's happening, I think it's really important, even if you have a transaction coordinator forever, I think knowing what they do always is really beneficial. But if you ever decide that, what, I want to do it on my own and I want to get some transactions all the way under my belt on my own, then you have at least a reference of what they've done for you that you can kind of cross-reference. So I would document what they're doing, what you're doing, and what other people are doing throughout the transaction, just as a quicker way to learn, quick way to reference. You know what? Yeah, for us, for our listings 450, I think our buyers are 400 for ours. And I'm not sure. I would say that's probably competitive to what the one that the office is using. Is it my transaction coordinator, I think? Oh, that's Brad's. Oh, okay. But yeah, so the office has one that's here in office that as you're going through this productivity coaching, that they'll get you set up with, and it will help expedite your learning curve so that you're not out there trying to learn it on your own. But I think that's correct. Yeah. And like I said, what I would do is just almost be a tag along to what they're doing, see all the emails they're sending, all the documentation they're doing. And even if you have no one, like if you intend on always having a transaction coordinator, I still would really buddy up next to her digitally and just see what she's doing on behalf of you and your clients, because then you know what to expect and you can even find ways to help improve those systems. Any other ahas, questions? Okay. Yep.
Doesn't matter what your goals are, whatever your systems are that are in place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we all get busy, and when we're busy, it might be that we're trying to service one client, and if we don't have the systems in place to help us attracting new clients, all of a sudden now we're on this roller coaster of we have a client, so we're super busy, but we're not prospecting, so our business drops. But if you come up with systems that help make sure that you're doing all of the things that are important to your business, then you're not going to see as much of that roller coaster. You're going to, and you're not going to miss out on a really important deadline if you have a way that you're keeping up with it. So like in the morning, you see that, oh, today is our appraisal deadline, and I don't have an addendum back. Like I sent it off and they've ignored it. So I need to address that today before 5 p.m. to make sure that I'm protecting my client. Just having some way to make sure that you're, systematically doing everything that we need to do makes this job a little easier. At least we don't have to think about what we're doing. We just now are dealing with the emotion parts of it. So I like that quote. I think that's wonderful. Yeah, so now that we've kind of gone through the timelines, which I took way longer than I thought we would be on it, we'll kind of rush through this stuff, ask questions as you need. Now we're going to talk about best practices and risk avoidance. So risk avoidance, communicate clearly and often with everyone in the transaction. It's said often in this industry that you can never over communicate with your clients or the other agents. I would argue there are times that there are agents that call and they just love to talk. You can't they can over communicate with you, but setting expectations up front, that is huge. If you have a listing and you know that days on markets right now, I think we're at 42 average days on market. Communicating that with your seller that, hey, we're going to get out of the gate, and I wouldn't expect to see an offer until 2-3 weeks in. You're not making them think that, oh, I'm going to get an offer day 1, we're going to close in day 12. Like, communicating what the expectations are is going to save you a lot of grief and heartache on the back end. And then once again, communicating as soon as you like if the market's telling us that the home's overpriced because we're not getting enough showings, we're not getting offers, or the feedback's saying, oh, the condition's a little worse than the price would command, you need to be communicating that with your seller as early as possible so that you're just helping alleviate the stresses that come. Selling a home is ranked 3rd on the level of life stresses. The first being death, the second being divorce, and then 3rd being demortgage. So being able to mitigate some of the stresses is really our biggest job, is trying to keep people from doing that. And then on number 3, maintaining your professionalism throughout. This is huge. Most of our clients are coming to us because we're experts, and they want to see that throughout all of our communication and the way we behave and act. And I would say that even includes going out onto like social media and stuff where they may not be, where you may not feel like you have to be a real estate professional, but people are watching you from everywhere. So, just maintaining professionalism. If you need to be a controversial person on Instagram, create a fake account so that you can do that safely. So risk avoidance, being proactive. If we looked at the timelines, where are the risks of a deal falling apart? Inspection and appraisal. What was that?
The funding portion.
Yeah, funding. The appraisal timeline can be a problem. What are the best practices to keep the deal alive? Yep, communicate early and often. Exactly. We're here trying to bulletproof it from the beginning, but as things change, we just need to head them off before they become festering wounds. So talking about being a fiduciary, always act in your client's best interest, even when it seems to conflict with your own. That is the definition of being a fiduciary, is that we're providing them with all the details and the information they need to be able to transact on real estate with, utmost confidence in us. then, we always want to live I don't know how we say it, the WI4C2ETs, our mantra that's upstairs somewhere. I know that there's a way to say it. I just can't remember ever. Any ahas on that? Staring at me. Yeah, we'll continue on. This referrals and reviews. This is the part that I spend most of my time in my role on our team. Our business is primarily repeat and referral. 75, I thought it was 72, but 75% of our clients either are past clients or are referred to us by past clients. And this year, the other part of our business is all agent referrals. So in the last 12 months, we've closed 4 that came from Google. Everything else was somebody referring us to clients. So I love that number, but I also hate that number because I hate that I'm tied to my database so much, but they're a good group of people to be tied to. So basically, the 3 opportunities that you have from clients, if we're talking about repeat business, every person moves on average every 7 years. If we were to really break down those stats, you'll see that first-time home buyers are closer to 3 to 5 years, and people who are more in their later life cycles, they're closer to 10 to 12 years. So, you have a good opportunity there. Referral business, this is going to be people that have worked with you or have known you from a previous career or, neighborhoods or groups, things that you're a part of that know, like, and trust you that are going to refer you to their friends. That is where our business started, was our referral business. Her first buyer client was a coworker of mine. I worked up at IM Flash. I was a robotics engineer. And one of my coworkers was like, "Oh, I'm thinking about buying a house." I was like, "Cool, my wife sells houses. You should meet up with her." He was actually working passively with 2 different agents. She happened to find him the house that he ended up buying. And when he left Arizona a couple years ago, I think we closed 5 transactions with him total. I think so. She's counting. She has to be accurate on everything. I can be close. 6 transactions. So, referral from me turned into a repeat business for her, just based off of service and everything. And then lastly, client reviews. Actually, our first seller was also her ex-boyfriend referred his neighbor, and that's turned into, you say 25 transactions, 45 transactions. So that one is very uncommon, but the person that we sold the house for, the husband and wife are both connectors. So they just love to like refer people to other people, and they're just absolutely love them, but they've been really wonderful to us. And then lastly is leveraging client reviews. So once you have clients and you're closing and stuff, our system is we send a link. I built a website that just has a Google link, so we can just send it, and it's just asking them to leave us a review, and we send that right after closing, but before it's funded. That way, the buyer seller still needs us because they haven't finished working with us yet. But they're at an all-time high, so then they're leaving us good reviews. I highly recommend not just asking your friends to write a review, or even you'll see times people will be like, leave us a review and we'll give you a $5 gift card. I don't recommend that, because when you're reading them, and especially now that we're in the age of AI, you can really see, and even like in Google now, it tells you what the common themes and stuff are for that person's reviews. And, like I said, we closed 4 in the last year that came to us from Google, and they're reading our reviews and they're going to our website. So I would not ask for a review that's going to be just like, "They're great, they gave me a free gift card," or, something like that. And
Post on, I can't remember what it was WhatsApp.
Mhm.
They said, doesn't just have to be work with the real estate. So for those of us that are like moving careers,
Mhm.
would you advise maybe to have like task forces?
Yes,
Like,
I would absolutely ask people that I've worked with or that have known me in some type of professional capacity to leave a review, but I would give them the prompt of, you know, obviously I've changed careers. I'd like a review about my personality and my work ethic or character, things that are going to not just be a generic 5-star with no words or you know, like, could you give me a good review of how you felt working with me? And you know, maybe leave it vague on the real estate part, but absolutely. Another thing that I've heard several people in this office recommend, go on to Keller Williams Westfield's Google reviews. Like if you're like building your brand and you need reviews, go find some reviews of the Westfield. There's a lot that are semi-generic that'll say the agents here are incredible. You know, they helped me get my house sold for more money. You can use those as well because they are, you know, unless it says like Brett Wild, I would have no hesitation saying it because guess what? We're all Keller Williams agents. So we're all fall under that brand of service, and that's the service that they can expect because of working with an agent here, you know, in a training like this. Like, you guys are getting the same trainings that the big teams got when they first started. You know, Becca 11 years ago was in this class. So yeah, if you're looking for, like, if you need a review to put on your social media, absolutely go to the Westfield page and pull some that are that you feel fit what your business is going to be. So. So for us, I have them on my website. Google is where I ask for people to leave reviews because it's the biggest. It's the one everyone's going to. So I have them on Google is where the only place I actually collect them. For a little while, we were collecting them on Zillow. We were collecting them on Facebook. I just don't feel like that's worth asking our clients even to copy and paste it and log into different apps. It's just too much for me to ask them. Just my personal opinion. I would recommend starting social media pages dedicated to your business. Like we're on everything. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're everywhere. I would recommend early on, use whatever one you're most comfortable with and build a business profile around that, because it's going to help you if somebody's ever looking for you. It'll help you that way, but it also helps your friends and stuff start to follow you. And as they engage, their friends might see it, and it will help us slow growth. Early on, we had a lot of leads coming from Facebook. I took over the Facebook marketing in 2020 and made a boo-boo. I accidentally went viral, and our page went from 700 close followers to 22,000. And that sounds awesome, but it really has killed our closing rate from Facebook because of now we're more of the funny satire big house company rather than a local knowledgeable real estate team. So, but back when we had a small Facebook page, we were closing deals, but it really lent into more of the 36 touch. It was our way of just keeping in touch with the people who already knew us. So that's where I would start if I were to start all over from scratch. I'd start a new social media page. I'd use Facebook because it's the one I'm most comfortable on. Yeah. What? Oh yeah, and thank you for bringing me back. And then you post the reviews there. So not necessarily using the review feature. Like if you're on Facebook, you could have people leave reviews there. But what we do is we just take like a graphic and we put the review in front of it with, you know, some words, whatever, and just a little, hey, this client just, you know, so grateful working with them, whatever. Jen Jorgensen from the office just did a review that I thought was really cool, where she had a video in the background of the review. It looks beautiful. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but you're just putting out there that you're successful, you know, giving people confidence in calling you. And it's really helpful to, especially if you're looking for that referral, that they have somewhere they can say, okay, yeah, they know what they're doing. They have a team. They're solid. They, you know, so yeah. Yes. I, I spend a lot of time on our website. For a long time, we were ranked #1 organic for Orem real estate. If you were in Orem and you typed in real estate agent or realtor, we were #1 organic. I screwed that up by, but now I'm like 5th for uh, like state. So now I'm not Utah, but like I'm up there with um, Zillow and Redfin and different things like that, which I from an analytics standpoint, I don't see a real difference between being Orem versus that, but we do a lot of um, I'll actually give you all my secrets on that. First, we have a dedicated website, um, and I did heavy keyword. Our website is theutahrealestateagent.com, so that was a huge like coming from my background, I knew the keyword in the title makes it huge. But from there, every single day we post on Google My Business, which is the like updates what's happening, everything. So Monday through Friday, we have a Google My Business post. Not a single person in the history of ever has actually looked at them, but Google looks at them as we're engaging in our business, doing things like they'll send out an email. Google My Business will send out an email that says, "Hey, it looks like you're open on the 4th of July. Would you like to update your hours?" And whether I'm working or not, I open up the program and I evaluate what's coming up. I mean, I did go and change that I was off on the 4th and the 24th, but like engaging with Google's automated email systems is something that has been huge. And then I'm doing blogs on our website, and to be completely honest, it's all Chat GPT and automated. I I go in and I do I keyword research what topics people are searching for, and I can't think of that portal. What is that website, Beck? No, I've used keywords everywhere, but what's the search? Yeah, answer the public. So you go to answer the public and you type in a keyword and it'll say, these are the questions people are asking about Utah real estate. And then I just go and say, okay, what is earnest money? So then I go in and take that to Chat GPT and say, okay, I'm writing a blog post about what is earnest money. And then I spell out what I want. And I also have done a lot of like uh, teaching Chat GPT about us and our business. So all of the answers sound like I actually probably fed it probably 50 different blogs that I wrote prior to ChatGPT becoming so everywhere. So it can mimic how I'm writing it, but I also do a really deep, like these are the bullet points that I really want to talk about. And then I just paste it. And then every Friday I have a blog post go live. And then our VA takes that blog post and the following Friday after it's been posted for a week, posts it to my Google My Business just as an update. So once again, it's just seeing that we're constantly updating the website and heavy keyword density of what people are searching for. So, and that's just brought us a lot of results within a very competitive market, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that would get a lot of. Probably have a form or.
Yeah, so we have a couple different things on the main landing page. There's like, I'm looking to buy, I'm looking to sell, I'm looking to invest. What's my home worth that they could fill out, and I'd say we get probably one decent person a month doing that, and then probably 6 or 7 people wanting to clean my office buildings and stuff, like just random people who are finding us in other businesses doing that. And then the other part is that we have an IDX feed, which if you use the website that Command has that we pay for with our Command access, it actually has IDX feed. So like I'm paying more outside of Command than I should, but I got golden handcuffs. I'm afraid to move now that I'm afraid I'll lose all of my Google rankings. So, but the other way is currently if after someone looks at 2 properties on our IDX, it forces them to register, and then I get their phone number, their email, and I can see all of the homes that they're searching for. So then we can, like I had one 2 days ago where I sent the information off to to my mom, our other buyer's agent, and said, hey, follow up with them, seeing if we can get them into a home or an appointment, so, and that's kind of what we're doing, but I've been working actively on that for 4 years, trying to get that lead source to where it's providing more, and I'm sure there's a lot that I'm not doing that I should be, but yeah.
You're not paying for any, lead generation.
Not currently. I am in talks with 2 different companies. I'm debating between using a company that will run Google Ads for us and potentially hiring a different cyberbacker to run ads for us and do some of the lead follow-up. So I'm in the point where our team and all of our systems are dialed in enough that I'm ready to build it into a much bigger team. I just need the leads now behind it. So like all of the systems, our 36 touch is really dialed in. So now I just need more leads so that I can bring on more agents and start, yeah.
So in the beginning, phone and questions they solve,
Mhm.
do you recommend focusing on one social media?
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely would focus on one until you have mastered it. Early on, Becca, her focus was Facebook because it was really the biggest at the time, and she learned everything about it, and then like saw the Facebook Live was their new thing that they were bringing out. So she's like, all right, every day I'm going to, every work day I'm going to do a Facebook Live, and that really, I mean that would been huge for a lot of different reasons, but just being able to see the trends and stuff, then you can able to say, all right, they're, TikToks are pushing this, and now I can start saying, I guess right now they're pushing collaborations with the what do you call it, where you buy stuff. So, that might be something that if you do those videos where you put a product to TikTok shop, yeah, at the bottom, that might be the route that you would go to get more views because that's what TikTok's pushing, and you can start looking at the algorithm. And once it becomes second nature working on that platform, then I would say find the next platform. You can go out and like start all of them all at once so that you have your names and your branding, everything like that. But I wouldn't put a lot of research time or efforts into them until you have one to where you're really happy with your content. And then just I would say follow people who are doing what you want to do in a successful level. There's you've got like Gary Vaynerchuk, who he's everywhere on social media. He's not for everybody. He does have a potty mouth, but he's succeeding at a high level. But then you've got other agents, and like there's Elio, is it Rodriguez? Yeah, he is exploded on Instagram. He was at Family Reunion 2022, I think it was, and like they had him up on stage and stuff. But his his Instagram success started out as he would just go and tour new construction homes, and then offer whatever the builder's offers were, and he was really good about calls to action, and just got out there and did it, and now his business has exploded. There's a girl named Kaylee Hunt, same type of thing. She's relocation, military wife, so she was in an area she had no connections, and she's built a huge business on Instagram to the point where most of her business now comes from agent to agent referrals. But it really comes back to they picked one platform and became the expert in that area, and so that's what I would do. I would have my hands in all of them just so I could have my handles, but then outside of just light research, I wouldn't do much on any of them other than, yeah.
Is there someone here that you recommend that is really great at that kind of stuff, like learning how to start posting videos?
Becca?
Or like pick a niche and like, yeah, I've never been super into social. I mean, I have, but I don't post a lot. Always have to pick my dog or my son. So like trying to figure out how to make an interesting video.
She's doing really, I'm pretty sure she has some paid creative stuff going. Yeah, so, yeah, she's out of here in the office. She's up there on that wall somewhere. She is incredible. And really anyone that you're seeing in the office, I can't think of a single person that is doing well on social that wouldn't be open to telling you all of their secrets. She's next to the red square on the right-hand side of the red square. But yeah, maybe we should talk to Cameron and see if we should do a social media class. That'd be fun. Yeah, but we do. Oh crap. All right. Client reviews, they're awesome. Get them. So have we talked about up to now in these classes about the promise script? Okay. So one of the big things that's hitting Keller right now is a script that they're calling the promise script, and it's basically a way to ask for reviews from the first interaction with your clients. You're basically, and I'll defer you guys to go search promise script on Facebook. You'll find a group called oh shoot, what's his name? James Shaw Pivot, and it's super great agent resource. It's called Pivot Shift Ahead or something like that with James Shaw. But the promise script is basically, hey, I'm going to here's my promises about how the transaction's going to go. And at the end of the transaction, what I'm wanting from you is a review, and I want you to you know, slaughtering the script. You know, or usually when we're going through a process like this, there are other people in your life are going to be going through a similar process. And what I'm wanting from you is, if I've done a good job, for you to connect me with someone else that you know who's going to be buying or selling a home. And basically, you just follow this process through, and it's really well laid out and scripted out. And then you follow up with that at different points through the transaction to get that review. Like I said, our process, we only ask for a review at the end of the transaction. We don't prep them that it's coming before that point in time. It comes from a very non-confrontational side that Becca. Any ahas? So here is the post-close follow-up. This is going to be smart plans inside of Command. There's a lot of different ways that you can follow up with clients. Our team, our 36 touch is, I send out emails monthly. We also have a group for our past clients that we call Club 92. In that, every month I'm doing a giveaway just so that they're opening up their emails. You know, last month we gave out tickets to Parade of Homes to 10 different groups. Month before that, we gave a grill. So it's just, they open the email, they sign up. We've done different things. That one year was like the first 10 people to sign up get it. This year it's random drawings. So that's part of my 36 touch, is just getting them to open the emails every other week. And then every other week is a monthly market update, and that goes to everybody. You've got different things like your neighborhood nurtures or your 8x8s or quarterly call plans. I'm getting too much into the week. I've been doing it for 2 hours. Why stop me now? I do have a listing appointment. So check out Command. There are a bunch of different pre-made smart plans that you can tailor to your needs.
You really have to.
Okay, I really have to go.
It really is 11:30.
I see that. I apologize that I took too long in the beginning. So,
Come find us on social media, text us, ask questions.
yep. My door is always open. However, it is not in this building. So if you ever, if you ever need anything, feel free to text or call me, or stop by our office in Mapleton. Probably text or call though, because if I'm not there, that'll be really disappointing. You're welcome. Thank you guys.